This tutorial will cover using an external synthesizer in Logic Pro X. To control your external instrument with MIDI, you will need a MIDI interface. Make sure your equipment is properly connected with MIDI in to MIDI out and vice versa. You can also use MIDI over USB if available on your instrument. First, we need to add an audio track and choose the input on your audio interface to which the instrument is connected to. We'll name this Phatty Audio. If you can't hear your instrument, make sure the correct input has been specified and input monitoring along with the software monitoring has been enabled. In order to sequence our instrument via MIDI, we'll need to add an external MIDI track and choose the MIDI interface and MIDI channel that corresponds to our current setup. Record enabling this track will activate MIDI through, which will allow us to use a USB keyboard controller to control our external synthesizer. This way we don't have to step away from the computer in order to play some notes on our instrument. Let's try recording some MIDI. As we see, both audio and MIDI has been recorded because we needed the Phatty audio track to be armed for recording in order to use software monitoring. Throughout this tutorial, we'll be using capture recording, which can be enabled here in the transport bar controls, which, using this button, captures any MIDI that was played even if we were not recording. If you are experiencing latency, be sure to check your buffer setting is low as possible. You can also enable low latency mode, which then can be activated here. Now we can use capture recording to recall the notes we just played, and by double-clicking on the MIDI region, we open the editor. Double-clicking while holding the Option key opens the editor in a separate window. Pressing Z on the keyboard zooms to the currently selected content. Now we can quantize, and do all the necessary MIDI edits. When we are satisfied, don't forget to record it as audio. Now we can duplicate this MIDI track, so we don't overwrite the old one, and we can hide the old one after muting it by using H, so it doesn't clutter our session. It is good practice to name the track after the preset that was used. Now let's record some notes on the Phatty's keyboard itself. We have to disable MIDI through because it will otherwise cause a MIDI feedback loop. Now let's click Capture Recording to recall the notes, and as we can see, the mod wheel movements have been recorded along with the notes. Now we can quantize and do the MIDI edits. The MIDI draw view enables us to see the controller movements. Now let's close the MIDI draw view, loop the MIDI region, and play it back while twisting the knobs on the Phatty. This way, we'll be able to record some controller changes. And now, Capture Recording also enabled us to record these changes in a separate region. We have to join these regions by bounce and join, or Command J. We can now browse through the recorded controllers in the MIDI draw view by using Auto Define or Command Y. We can scroll through the recorded changes. Here we have MIDI velocity, modulation, and other controllers. After editing the controls, we can record the audio. Again, remember to name the track after the preset that was used. Let's apply some effects, some delay and reverb. Now let's clip this region to 4 bars and duplicate it. Also, we have hidden the MIDI track and made a new one. We will now do some drawing of MIDI notes instead of recording them. We'll use the pencil tool to create a note, and then, after dragging it to last 1 bar, we'll use the scissor tool by holding the Option key to cut it into 16th notes. We can now move them around to form a sequence, and we'll browse through the presets as the sequence is playing. We are experiencing a MIDI feedback loop, that's why the controllers don't work properly. We have to disable MIDI through the Record Enable button, and now it's working correctly again. After capturing a few takes, we'll prepare it for audio recording. And move on to another track. A very efficient way of generating sequences is using the grid workaround. We'll make 16th notes as we did before with the scissor tool, and we will copy the notes chromatically to fill a few octaves. Now, we'll use the scale quantize to quantize the notes to A minor pentatonic. We'll then use the collapse view to hide the notes in the piano roll that we're not using. After adjusting the view, we'll mute all the notes, and then we'll use the mute tool to unmute the notes we want to play. This way we can easily form sequences in a given key. Once we are happy, we can audio record the sequence. Now we can loop the recorded region and move on. Now I will demonstrate how to sync the arpeggiator in the Little Phatty, or its LFOs, to MIDI clock of the project, so it follows the project tempo. We have to go into Project Settings, Synchronization, and MIDI to make the MIDI clock transmit to our MIDI interface. Now the Phatty can receive the MIDI clock to sync its arpeggiator or LFOs to the project tempo. Please refer to your operations manual for any details. So as we hear, it syncs. We can now capture the notes played, quantize them in Edit, adjust the levels, and play with the cutoff knob while we're recording the audio. And now here's our final track. Be sure to check out the shades of Techno Soundbank for the Little Phatty and Slim Phatty by 5pin Media. Thank you for watching.